What does climate justice mean to you?
Justice means that the people who've contributed the biggest to climate change and its effects should be paying the most, and those who have contributed the least should be paying the least.
Do you think climate justice should extend to non-human animals as well?
Absolutely. If it can be studied and there is evidence, why not? Because this planet is not just about human beings. It's about all animals, all life, plants, and the microorganisms, everything.
Would you consider going plant-based if it meant a better future for our planet?
Currently, no, I wouldn't.
My first question to you is, what does climate justice mean to you?
Climate justice to me means that everyone is included in the conversation on how we deal with climate change.
Do you think climate justice should be extended to non-human animals as well?
Good question. I haven't thought of climate justice in that way yet. I think there is a good point. This is not part of the conversations yet, but if we do want to protect nature and our ecosystems, what we humans most of the time want to do for our own sake, then I think considering justice towards the environment, justice towards animals, should be part of the conversation. It's only logical.
I want to ask you, what does climate justice mean to you?
Okay. Well, for me, climate justice is for countries from the global south being able to respond and build their resilience to climate change. So whenever people mention climate justice, it's more about the vulnerable and also those that have the smallest voice in the room, how they adapting and coping to the climate crisis. Yeah.
You mentioned the vulnerable and those have the smallest voices. Do you think climate justice should extend to non-human animals as well?
I mean, of course, as long as anyone is being affected by climate change, then of course they need the support that they can when it comes to the climate change problem that we have. So be it floods, droughts, or heat waves, if they're able to cope, then we should be able to support their coping mechanisms to the problem.
Would you consider going plant-based if it meant a better future for our planet?
Well, it depends, of course, on the region, especially. I mean, I come from a region where nutrition is a big deal. So for us to go plant-based as well means are people still able to have food on their table? So access to food, not just food, but also the quality and quantity of food matters. So if it does at least reduce greenhouse gas emissions, then I would encourage people to go plant-based.
This map is just showing how much land globally is used to produce dairy products. It's an area of land the size of Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Ecuador, just to meet our demand for dairy products. You've got this kind of striking disparity between the land that's used for animal products and the land that's used for other food. We're not only using a lot of land for animal products, we're clearing more land every year for animal products. A very large share of food's environmental impacts relates to animal products, yet they're providing just 37% of our protein, 18% of our calories. You've got really at the top of this graph in greenhouse gas emissions your animal products, and at the bottom your plant-based products. This isn't a random selection of products. These are the main sources of plant-based and animal source protein in the human diet. Also of interest is that it seems that in our data, at least, the lowest impact way of producing these animal products still seems to be creating more emissions than your vegetable proteins. So, the most sustainable way globally to, let's say, produce cheese is still creating a lot more emissions than producing, say, tofu.
What does climate justice mean to you?
It means looking at everything with an equitable lens. When we're talking about a lot of the solutions down to cooling, extreme heat, who are the most vulnerable to this? That is something that we need to keep our eye on. And that's what climate justice really should mean. Yeah. And I do think that is what it means.
Do you think that justice should extend to non-human animals as well?
Absolutely. They are also some of the most vulnerable. In fact, in the city that I live, this year was one of the hottest years, and we saw animals down from dogs and cats actually bleeding because of the extreme heat, especially the stray dogs and cats. And of course, you have a lot of civil society mobilization to help them, but this is something that I believe the government also needs to keep an eye on, because it is a part of the ecosystem and they complete the world that we live in.
Absolutely. Would you consider going plant-based if it meant a better, equitable, fairer future for us all?
Absolutely. However, that does become a bit of a problematic discussion. In, let's say, in my country like India, meat isn't as big of a market as it is in the West, right? We don't have, maybe aside from, let's say, chicken, we don't have like large meat farms per se. So India is already fairly well plant-based. So it is, up to the rest of the world how they also manage that entire market to not be so wasteful. Rather, I think excess of anything is terrible. So it's all about balance. Yeah?
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
I'm going to pass that on to you. Super interesting facts about India though. There's a documentary called Maa Ka Doodh.
Yeah.
And it's based on the Indian context because I honestly thought the same thing. But apparently we're the world's largest exporter of beef and leather.
Exporter. But not
Exporter.
consumer.
Yeah, so apparently
that is something that needs to be looked at, because, and also it's the largest exporter of beef, which
Largest
is something
exporter of beef,
which is banned in India. We are the biggest beef exporters, despite actually even 70% of meat eaters not eating beef. Of the 70% of meat eaters, actually about only 20% eat beef.
Yeah, so that was super interesting for me. So I learned that it comes from the dairy industry because even if killing the cow is illegal, killing the buffalo is not. So it's like bulls and buffaloes, and that's the meat that we consume and also export.
There is a deep irony in that.
Yeah,
there
for
is
sure.
No denying.
100%.
And I don't think that's a good question because I don't think we get to. We don't get to scapegoat by saying, oh, we're not meat eaters, but we're actually exporting.
Exactly.
Good point.
Yeah, cool. Thank you so much. That's the plant-based treaty, and I will give you that. Thank you so much for doing this. Appreciate it.